So how are you? Looking beautiful as usual.
Well, thank you.
Tell me a little bit about all that's going on with you. And I haven't seen you. Well, let's back this up a little bit. You and I have known each other for approximately how long now?
Close to 30 years, I think.
Pretty close. Pretty close. Yes. And I think it was a lovely meeting. I really have to appreciate and tell your husband, thank you so much. Talk to him in the stratosphere and just say thank you so much, because without him, I would not have met you. And I think it's such a delight. You've been so phenomenal for me and my family.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's talk about you. Well, I don't know if anybody knows, but this is Bob Wilson's wife. And what happened was a few years ago, Bob transitioned. And this was a gentleman who helped me not only with my career. When I first went into Sacramento into the cable company, I was under, you could say, his tutelage. He was one of the producers there. And then we became friends and we co-produced quite a few things. And in between there, jetting in and out and just having conversations, I met this lovely lady, his wife. And I appreciate meeting her and him. Two crazy folks, two very crazy folks. But they've always helped me. She helped me a lot with my daughters, my daughter and my granddaughter. She is I would say she's a godmother. She's the aunt of my granddaughter, and who's now in her 20s, believe it or not, in her 20s. And and Bob, on the other hand, did something for me when I came into Sacramento. I'm not even Sacramento. That was a beautiful experience. But when I came into Arizona, I decided to use my background, my television and radio background. And he was the one that, even though he wasn't feeling well, he was sick. And he and Hillary were able to coordinate all the information that I needed in order to prove that I had over 12,000 hours in this industry. And I just love them so much for that. And I appreciate that. And I wanted you to know how much that meant to me. So I did get the certification with the state of Arizona in the Department of Education because of his efforts. And I mean, he was not well, and he made sure he did this for me. And she was just right there all the way. And I thank you both so much for that. And I don't think I've ever really told you that, but I want you to know I'm very humbled by it. Very humbled.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Now, let's talk about you, lady. What have you been doing?
Not a whole lot. I'm now in recovery process of surgery, having had surgery 3 weeks ago, but I'm doing good.
Yes. Talk more about this. What was the surgery for? If you want to ask.
Sure. I have something called achalasia pericardia, and what happens is that it affects your ability to swallow and eat food. So what they do is, I don't want to get too gruesome,
right,
but they go in there and they cut the muscle. There's a muscle at the end of your esophagus that squeezes food into your stomach, and that doesn't open up, so food does not go into so that your food doesn't go into your stomach. So they have to cut the muscle to open it up so food can go into your stomach, and that's what they did.
That doesn't sound lovely. I tell you, medicine was never my thing. I'm sorry, I can't handle any aspect of it. I leave that to all of you that know the technical terms and what it means and how it works. I'm like, yeah, right, okay. So what does that do now? What does that do for you in terms of what you can eat and cannot eat and that journey?
Before I had surgery, I lost 40 plus pounds.
Wow.
So now I can eat practically anything and everything, and I've been starting to do that slowly. But yeah, I'm now going back to my normal diet before I had this issue. The achalasia pericardia is never going to go away. It's always going to be there, and that there's no actual cure for it.
Is that hereditary? How did you get that?
I don't know if it's hereditary. I think part of it. Let me go back further a little bit, if you don't mind. I had cancer 16 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I had something called Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was diagnosed in 2009, and I started treatment June 2009. And I think what happened was it had to do with having radiation and chemotherapy. And I think that was part of it. But, I don't know for sure. And they don't know either.
That's lovely. I mean, I'm trying to be nice now.
I know.
Wow. So they put you through all of that. Nobody really knows which end is up.
Right.
And then,
hey,
even January of 2010. Mid-January 2010.
wow. Mid-January, I left Houston in mid-January. I was living in Houston for 10 years. And I left in, as a matter of fact, it was just before my birthday. So it was in January, and it was 2010. And I went back to the East Coast on that one. That was an interesting journey. But I didn't have anything like what you were dealing with. And I thought my emotional stuff was intense. No, I thought that was deep. But I guess maybe not. Not as put in its proper perspective.
Right.
What are some of the other things that you're involved with, Hillary? Because a lot of people don't know anything about you, and even the people that know you probably don't know that much. Don't reveal everything. We like mystery, but I'd like for you to share the things that you think that would be good to know.
I spent 20 plus years working with Tibetan nuns and Tibetan monks who came on tours to the U.S. here in the Cal Norte area. I worked with nuns, one group of nuns, mostly monks in different monasteries in southern India. And I've done that for quite a while. I'm a sponsored mother of a Tibetan monk who lives in southern India. He's now an adult. So being a mother of adult, that takes off some of the pressure. But still, I still have concerns, but, as a parent.
But of course.
He is in college now, the equivalent of college for them, and he is in the top of his class.
Nice guy. Proud. You are the proud mother, right?
Yeah. He will probably be graduating cum laude, equivalent to cum laude.
Nice. So what exactly does he do with it after he graduates? Does he, out here in the world, you go and work for somebody, or you create your own business?
Probably go out and do teachings. He'll travel the world and do some Buddhist teachings.
Okay.
He'll do stuff in the monastery, teach, younger monks, and, the lower level, well, I shouldn't say lower level, monks, at the monastery he's at.
Oh, okay.
He'll be teaching them, Buddhist philosophy, all kinds of, anything that has to do with Buddhism, he'll be teaching them. So.
How did you become involved with that?
Well, let's see. I can go back. I was born in early 60s in New York City's Little Italy, Soho district. I was named after Sir Edmund Hillary. I was just born just short of his 10th anniversary of his climb for Everest. So my mother and my birth father, who were not very nice, was only one decent thing they did. They named me after him using his surname. And so when I learned that, I became very interested in Himalaya region, Nepal, Tibet, and that's how I, even from a very early age, I became very interested in Tibet, and I've always been interested in Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, that whole Himalaya area. I've always been fascinated with it.
Well, for those who don't know anything about being a Buddhist or don't know anything about the monks, that you can share that is quite normal and quite public, would you share what was the fascination for you once you found out, okay, well, this is where you're from in terms of the name, and what was the complete attraction to keep you in there for so long?
Well, I was growing up with an atheist family. My parents were atheists. My grandparents on both sides of my family were not. My mother's side was Lutheran, and my grandfather, her father was non-practicing Jewish, and my father's side was Catholic. And so I had a little bit of, sorry to say to some people who may not like this, I was not happy with the Christian churches, and so I started to dive into it because I thought this would be, I thought maybe this would be something to try. And that's what I did, and I found it that was what, attracted me to it. And that's how I got started in it.
Well, I used to read a lot of their books. I found when I was younger, when I was also from New York, just like you, and I used to go down to the Macy's store, and not only Macy's, but also Abraham and Strauss. And I would go there, go into the bookshelf, the book area, and I would spend hours in Asia, just reading the books, because I couldn't afford them at that time. I was a student. Students couldn't afford books. And I was in high school. Yeah, so I hear you, what you're saying as far as that part is concerned. And I do see that there is a certain kind of curiosity about, their history. And, so what did you find curious about their history that kept you entrenched?
I think the whole issue of Tibet, what's happened with the Tibetan people, being the war with China in the late 50s, not having, being forced out of Tibet and into a different country, India, not actually, being there, not having a home, not having, a place, their own country, they have no place. They weren't considered citizens or living in India. They were just refugees. And that was all fascinating to me and very sad, that they have no place to actually call home, a country at all.
And you related to that because of your own experience.
Oh yeah.
As most of us would, who have had any kind of scenarios in their life, especially during the formative years, where it really counts to feel that connection, that grounding, that acceptance, that love, and that appreciation for this child to be here among us. And if you've experienced anything that negates that or doesn't have that as a focus point,
right,
then you start looking, you start searching out there.
Right, that's what I did.
But you stayed. That's the piece that I'm talking about. You stayed because even though you might have had that interest, you didn't necessarily have to stay put, meaning develop it, learn more, and really become involved with it. And also now has an incredible son. So, come on now. There was more to that. So tell me more about your experiences when I met you. It was over, I think you were in school at that time. Weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was in community college here. I've been going in and out of it because I had some not so good experiences being a person with a disability. I've had teachers tell me that I was faking my disability, and that, that I shouldn't be in their classes that were designed for people with disabilities. That didn't, and I do have an actual physical disability and a learning disability. So this teacher apparently didn't know what she was talking about.
Well, they didn't in those days. They didn't. They were just estimating, speculating, doing that kind of unnecessary and just verbalizing on a level that they didn't need to. Right. So, but you were able to hang in there, though. And you continued on. What was that determination about? Come on, talk up. What was that determination about, Hillary? Come on.
I've learned to persevere, not having a family support system. That I just gotta. No, I don't have it, but I need to just move on, keep going. Don't look back. And
where did you get that from? Where did you get that from? To move on and keep going.
I think it's just in my own journey. I've done that. I've decided that no, I can't let people say, no this, no that. I decided that I need to push forward. I'm not going to let somebody tell me no. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to show them that even though I have a disability, I can do it. I have self determination, and I think that I've learned to do that on my own count.
A couple of weeks ago, you and I were engaged in a small conversation, and you were involved with some books and reading and an assignment that you were working on. Can you share what that was about?
I am working on my own right now. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm working on doing my own self-education, where I'm working with textbooks that I've gotten, and I'm not actually, I need to get myself more motivated on them.
That happens.
But I'm working on math. I'm working on history. I'm working on some other stuff. Most of it's high school level, which is okay. But okay.
But the thing that I find profound about you is that you are still continuously growing and learning. And you could very easily take the other road and say, hey, well, I have a disability. I cannot do this. I have a learning disability. I cannot do that. But you don't seem to be that type of person. So what inspires you to keep going?
I think just want to push myself as far as I can go. That's what I try to do. I try not to look at myself as, woe is me, I have a disability. I try to do what I can and be normal just like everybody else. And that to me is important. I don't want to be treated differently because I have a disability. I want to be treated just like everybody else. Yes, I have some minor limitations, but I can still work around those. And I do work around those. And that's something that I try to persevere and just keep, I try to do that. People, when I go in my wheelchair, I go places, they try to move out of the way. I go, no, that's okay. I'll work around you. And that's what I do. I work around people. I don't tell people, hey, no, I'm going to get wheeled. Get out of the way. No, I don't do that.
That's definitely different. That's definitely different and commendable. So is that something that you would share with those who have disabilities? And is that also something that you would share with those who are critical of people that have disabilities?
Yes, I would. I think that treating people the way, even though they may be different, maybe sexual preference, disability, color of skin, religion, treat them the way you would want to be treated. That's how people should be treated. Don't treat them differently because they're different. Treat them like you would want to be treated yourself. And that's something I believe in. I did have a couple who lived not far from where you're at, Natalie.
Oh, really? Go ahead.
That I think I was like their daughter to them for almost 20 years.
Oh, okay.
And I think being around him, I learned a lot. What I didn't get from my parents, but didn't learn because my parents didn't teach me a whole lot. They kind of completely ignored me to the most extent. So I learned very quickly being around my I would say my adoptive parents, even though they weren't legally adopting me. What was, how to behave, how to act. And I learned a lot from them just by being around them and observations. And I've also learned that from other people, observing other people. And those are the ones who inspired me to do things, and how to behave and how to act.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I had a sister who is 2 years younger than me. She's passed away. And I have a brother 8 years younger than me, and we're off and on, shall we say. We're not close.
Yeah, that happens. It happens a lot, more so than not.
Right.
But you were able to just disconnect and just keep going?
Oh, yeah. I had to. There was nothing I could do.
When you were 7 years old, did you realize at that particular point in time what? And you were 7.
That they weren't going to support me, my family, my parents were not going to support me. And
You knew that at 7.
Yeah, at 7. I knew that at 7. I knew that, that I had teachers who were supportive of me. One of them who I haven't spoken to in a very, very long time, who is a Holocaust survivor. She was at Auschwitz-Buchenwald, and she was in a special ed school, was my teacher. She was my mentor. I learned a lot from her. I learned my native language, which was my grandparents, my mother's parents spoke, which was German and French. But from her, I learned German, so I could speak to my grandfather. My grandfather spoke some English, but most of the time it was in German. So that's how we communicated. So I learned that, to speak German so I could communicate with him better. My cousin also spoke German. So that's where I learned some of it too, is from her. So that was, that she was my biggest inspiration, surviving the Holocaust. I mean, that must have been, I can't imagine
right.
That it being in Auschwitz-Buchenwald, which is probably the worst place to be during World War II, one of the worst places.
Right.
And coming out of it and surviving, getting a teaching certificate, becoming a teacher in special education. I mean, wow, how inspiring is that, to go through all that and be able to do that.
How old were you when they identified you as a person that needed special education or something a little bit different because of the learning disabilities?
I think I was probably about 5.
Okay, so you were still young. Okay.
No, I was very young. Yeah, I was very young.
Sometimes you, especially with certain learning disabilities, they don't ID that until you're much older.
Right. I've seen cases that I know people who've gone through that. Right. People who don't be identified as ASD, ASP, excuse me, autism spectrum.
Okay.
They don't get identified until they're adults.
Right. So my question to you is, so what is the inspirational words that you would like to share with somebody with disabilities, learning disabilities, somebody who might have physical disabilities, and somebody who's just fed up with everybody else that has the disability?
I tell the younger generation, I would say, it's going to be a rough road, but you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you no. You do much as you can, and you push forward. As no matter what people say, don't let anybody say no because you have disability. You can't do that. You can do it if you work hard at it and you think you can. That's the important part.
Very good.
To go forward. There are going to be people out there. There are going to be naysayers. They're going to put you down. But just close your ears and go forward. Don't let them put you down. Don't let them, don't be negative Nelly get you.
Very good. And for those who are being their critics, what would you say to those individuals?
To those being critics, open your eye. Don't assume something when you see somebody who may their disability may not be visible. It may be an invisible disability. Open your eyes and listen to them. Understand what they're going through. Until you walk into their shoes, you don't know what they're going through at all.
Okay, we have exactly, I would say, 4 more minutes. Within this 4 more minutes, what else would you like to share that's been on your heart that you wanted to tell the world?
I think tell people to treat people just as you would treat anybody else. Please do that. Don't let what's going on in the world destroy us. That's what's going on now today. We're destroying each other. Stop the fighting. Stop the bickering. Help each other. Care about each other. Look at your neighbors. Help your neighbors. Maybe if they're elderly or disabled. Don't close the door. Don't shut yourself in. Work with people around you.
I thank you so much for being with me today. And it's always a pleasure to have you here. I mean, it certainly is a pleasure, and it's been a long time coming. So, Miss Hillary Wilson, I look forward to our next encounter. Okay,
Well, thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it very much.
all righty. I'm Natalie J. We'll talk with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This particular segment was created because of a need to just share some of the special things that are happening in life. And believe it or not, this particular scenario applies to people who are in the workforce, who have their own businesses. This is all a part of that whole circle. So don't think that this is straying too much from the original topic, which is generally public relations, marketing, and cyber insights. So without any further ado, you enjoy your evening, your weekend, and I'll see you on Monday at 7 o'clock. Ciao. This is Natalie J. or NJ.